With a sigh of relief, I sent my employer the email requesting a vacation. 3 years. I hadn't gone on a real vacation for 3 solid years. Nicole is my name. I'm 32 years old, and I've been working really hard to go up the corporate ladder at Walsh Marketing Agency. Last month, I finally received a promotion to senior account manager, so I could finally relax. 10 whole days, I said to myself as I browsed my laptop's list of beach spots. I became excited at the idea of having sand between my toes and not having to worry about anything more urgent than what drink to order next. Mom's weekly reminder chimed on my phone. Tomorrow at 5 p.m., we have family supper. Avoid being late. There was no negotiating the customary Sunday dinners at my parents' place. The family was kept close by Mom and Dad's insistence. And to be honest, even though there was usually mayhem since there were 5 kids running about, I still liked seeing everyone. The following day, I followed my brother Mark's minivan into my parents' driveway. The noise inside was already audible to me, folks chatting over one another, youngsters shrieking. Car seats and kids' sporting goods were packed into my sister Jen's SUV, which was parked on the street. There she is. When I walked in, Mom yelled and came running to give me a hug. We were just talking about summer plans. From the couch, where he was attempting to control Tommy, his youngest kid, who was leaping on the cushions, Mark waved. In the corner, his wife Lisa was deep in conversation with Jen's husband, Paul. Jen, my sister, was running down the hallway after her kid. "Can you get Tyler, Nicole? He's going to draw the curtains." Mark saw me right away and yelled out. And there it was. I was being recruited for child care duties before I had even put down my handbag. Mark and Lisa have 3 children, Tommy, age 3, Emma, age 5, and Tyler, age 7. Jen has 2, Noah, 2, and Lily, 4. And for some reason, I was always on call as the go-to babysitter since I was the sister without a child. I jokingly said, "Let him pull them down," but I still made an attempt to stop my nephew. "Maybe you'll finally replace those hideous things." "Everyone, dinner's ready," Dad declared as he came out of the kitchen carrying a roast beef dish. We all hurried to get the kids comfortable, which involved a tumultuous ballet of sippy cups, booster seats, and seat-sharing agreements. I finally made the decision to deliver my news once everyone had settled down and the food had been distributed. "So, I finally put in for vacation time," I said in between mashed potato nibbles. "In 3 weeks, 10 days will begin. I'm considering a tropical location." The table went quiet for a moment before erupting into excited chatter. "What timing?" Dad exclaimed. "We were just talking about a family vacation this summer." Mark leaned forward. "We've been planning a trip to Florida. The kids have been begging to go to the theme parks. We should all go together." Mom clapped her hands together. "Nicole, you have to come with us." I froze mid-bite. This was not how I had imagined my first real vacation in years, surrounded by family, with the inevitable responsibility of watching the kids while everyone else relaxed. "I don't know," I hesitated. I was kind of looking forward to some alone time. Alone time. Jen looked at me like I'd suggested vacationing on Mars. "That's so depressing, Nick. Vacations are meant to be shared. Remember that trip to the mountains 4 years ago?" I countered. "I spent the entire time chasing after Mark's kids while everyone else went hiking." "That was different," Lisa chimed in. "The kids were younger then." "They're still kids," I pointed out. "Nicole," Mom reached over to pat my hand. "We worry about you being alone all the time. It's not healthy." "I'm not alone all the time," I defended myself. "I have friends, colleagues." "But family is different," Dad interrupted. "Besides, when was the last time we all went somewhere together?" "For years ago," I repeated, "when I ended up being the full-time babysitter." "You're exaggerating," Mark said with a dismissive wave. We all pitched in. I raised an eyebrow at him. "Really?" "Because I distinctly remember being stuck in the cabin with the kids while you and Lisa went ziplining." "We promise it won't be like that this time," Jen said eagerly. "We'll take turns with the kids. You won't have to watch them at all if you don't want to." I looked around the table at their hopeful faces. Even the kids seemed excited, though they were more interested in the prospect of a vacation than my participation in it. "We've already looked at hotels," Mom added. "There's this beautiful resort in Clearwater Beach with pools and activities for the kids. We've already booked our flights and rooms. We're leaving 3 weeks from Friday. You should get on the same flight." I sighed, feeling the weight of their expectations. Every rational part of me was screaming to stick to my original plan of a peaceful solo vacation. But as the evening wore on and more details about the trip emerged, the beachfront hotel, the nearby attractions, the promises that I wouldn't be roped into child care duty, I found myself wavering. Maybe they meant it this time. Maybe they had realized how they'd taken advantage of me before. "Okay," I finally said as we were clearing the dishes. "I'll book my ticket and room when I get home tonight." The cheers that erupted made me smile despite my reservations. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. As soon as I got home, I kicked off my shoes and flopped onto my couch, laptop balanced on my knees. 2 hours and several frustrated sighs later, I had booked my hotel room at the same resort as my family. But there was a problem with the flights. The one my family had booked was already full. The best I could do was a flight leaving the following day. I called Mom the next morning on my way to work. "I got the same hotel," I told her, "but couldn't get on your flight. I'll be coming in Saturday instead of Friday." "Oh, that's a shame," Mom said, though she didn't sound too disappointed. "But at least you'll be there. We'll save you a spot at the beach." The next 3 weeks were a whirlwind of work wrap-up and vacation preparations. Strangely, neither Mark nor Jen dropped their kids off at my place during this time, something that had become a near-weekly occurrence before. Usually one of them would text me some variation of emergency at work. "Can you take the kids for a few hours?" Which inevitably turned into an entire evening of babysitting. But now nothing. Radio silence on the babysitting front. Maybe they really have changed, I said to myself one evening as I folded swimsuits into my suitcase. The thought was both refreshing and suspicious. 3 years of being the family's go-to child care option had made me skeptical of sudden changes in behavior. With just a week left before departure, I was at my kitchen table making a checklist of items to pack: sunscreen, hat, beach reeds, charging cables, the usual vacation essentials. My phone buzzed with a notification from my Messenger app. It was a message from Jen, but the preview text made my blood run cold. "Mark, Nicole doesn't suspect anything. She actually believes us about." I didn't open the message right away. My thumb hovered over the notification. My mind was racing. What didn't I suspect? What was I supposed to believe? Before I could decide whether to open it, another notification popped up. This message was deleted. Too late. I'd already taken a screenshot of the notification. I stared at the captured text again. "Mark, Nicole doesn't suspect anything. She actually believes us about not having to watch the kids. Can't believe she fell for it again. Mom and Dad are totally on board with the plan too. We'll all get to relax while she's stuck with the brats." The message cut off there, but it was enough. My family, my entire family, had been plotting to use me as free child care all along. The promises, the assurances that things would be different this time, all lies. I felt a wave of anger rise within me, followed by a strange sense of calm. So that's how it was going to be? Well, two could play at this game. With cold determination, I picked up my phone and called the hotel. "Hi, I need to cancel a reservation," I said, reciting my confirmation number. Next, I canceled my flight to Florida. The airline representative offered me a partial refund, which I gladly accepted. "And I'd like to book a new flight, please," I added, to Hawaii. After handling all the logistics, I sat back, a satisfied smile spreading across my face. For once, I wasn't going to be the responsible, dependable Nicole who always put everyone else's needs before her own. This time, I was choosing myself. The days crept by, and Saturday's family dinner arrived. I showed up at my parents' house with a plastered-on smile, curious to see just how deep their deception ran. "There's our world traveler." Dad greeted me with a hug. all packed and ready for Florida. Almost, I lied smoothly. Just a few last-minute things to get. Mark glanced up from where he was pretending to wipe chocolate off Tommy's face. The kids can't wait to build sand castles with their favorite aunt. I caught the significant look he exchanged with Lisa, a look I would have missed if I hadn't been watching for it. I'm looking forward to it too, I replied, matching his fake enthusiasm with my own. Throughout dinner, I noticed the conspiratorial glances between my siblings and parents. Little smirks when they thought I wasn't looking. Comments about how much fun we'd all have together. Each one made my resolve stronger. The evening wound down, and I said my goodbyes with promises to see them all in Florida soon. Little did they know what I had planned. Friday came, and my phone lit up with messages from my family. Just checked in at the hotel. It's gorgeous. The beach is amazing. Can't wait for you to get here tomorrow. The kids are asking when Aunt Nicole is coming. I sent back a simple smiley face emoji and finished packing my real vacation essentials for Hawaii. Saturday morning arrived bright and clear. I locked up my apartment, rolled my suitcase out to the waiting taxi, and headed for the airport. Not to Florida, but to paradise. My paradise, where no one expected me to be a free babysitter. As the plane took off, I switched my phone to airplane mode, leaned back in my seat, and felt a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I was doing something purely for myself. The flight to Hawaii was long but peaceful. I dozed, read, and daydreamed about the beaches waiting for me. By the time we landed, I was ready for my real vacation to begin. My hotel was everything the website had promised: palm trees swaying in the gentle breeze, the scent of plumeria in the air, and the sound of waves crashing nearby. "Welcome to Kauai," the receptionist said as she handed me my room key. "Is this your first time visiting us?" "It is," I replied with a genuine smile. "And I have a feeling it won't be my last." I didn't even wait to unpack. Within 20 minutes of arriving at my room, I had changed into my swimsuit and was heading for the beach. The warm Hawaiian sun on my skin and the soft sand between my toes were everything I had dreamed of. Hours later, thoroughly relaxed and slightly sunburned, I returned to my room and finally turned on my phone. As expected, it exploded with notifications, missed calls, voicemails, and increasingly frantic text messages. "Nicole, where are you? Your flight should have landed hours ago. We're at the airport. Did you miss your flight? Nicole, answer your phone." I smiled to myself as I typed a simple reply to the family group chat. "Having a wonderful time in Hawaii. Please don't disturb my vacation. See you all when I get back." I hit send, turned off my phone again, and went to bed, falling asleep to the sound of the ocean and not a single crying child. The next morning, I woke to the gentle sound of waves and birds chirping outside my window, not screaming children or family drama. I stretched luxuriously in my king-sized bed, savoring the peaceful moment before checking my phone. As expected, it was a disaster zone. 37 missed calls, dozens of text messages, and several voicemails. The text messages had evolved from confusion to anger overnight. "Nicole, this isn't funny. Where are you? The kids are disappointed. How could you do this? You're being incredibly selfish right now." I rolled my eyes and scrolled through the rest without responding. But when Mom called again as I was sipping my morning coffee on the balcony, I decided to pick up. "Nicole Marie," Mom's voice was shrill with anger. "What do you think you're doing?" "Good morning to you too, Mom," I replied calmly. "I'm enjoying my vacation in Hawaii." "This is completely unacceptable," she shouted. "You've ruined our family vacation. Your brother and sister are furious. The children are asking where you are." "Let me stop you right there," I cut in. "I know about the plan." "What plan?" Her voice faltered slightly. "The plan to use me as a free babysitter while you all enjoyed yourselves," I said. "Jen accidentally sent me a message meant for Mark." I saw everything. There was a pause, then a heavy sigh. "You're overreacting," Mom said finally. "We just didn't want to bother you with the details ahead of time." "Is that so terrible? Details?" I laughed without humor. You mean the detail where I'd be stuck watching 5 kids while everyone else relaxed? That's not a detail, Mom. That's taking advantage of me again. You're single and childless, Nicole. Mom's voice turned stern. You should understand how hard it is for Mark and Jen. They deserve a break. I gripped my phone tighter, feeling the old anger rise. So do I. I've been working nonstop for 3 years to get this promotion. And it's not my responsibility to parent their children. They chose to have kids, not me. Family helps family, Mom insisted. No, Mom. What you're describing isn't help, it's exploitation. And the fact that you all plotted behind my back makes it worse. You betrayed my trust. Now you're just being dramatic. Am I? I interrupted. Because from where I'm standing, my entire family conspired to ruin my vacation by tricking me into being an unpaid nanny. That feels pretty significant to me. Nicole, I'm done talking about this, Mom said sharply. I'm going to enjoy my vacation, my real vacation, without any of you. We can discuss this when I get back if I feel like it. Don't you dare hang up on me, young lady. I ended the call and blocked their numbers for good measure. My hands were shaking with anger and adrenaline, but I also felt strangely liberated. For once, I had stood up for myself instead of capitulating to family pressure. The rest of the day was blissful. I went snorkeling, lounged by the pool with a trashy novel, and treated myself to a fancy dinner with a sunset view. Not once did I have to cut someone's food, wipe a runny nose, or break up a fight over toys. That night, I unblocked my family's numbers, curious to see their reaction. New messages had piled up, all variations on the same theme. I was selfish. I'd ruined their vacation. I'd let the children down. One message from Mark particularly caught my eye. The kids won't stop whining, and Lisa and I can't enjoy a minute to ourselves. This is all your fault. I couldn't help but laugh. There it was in black and white, the real reason they wanted me along. Free childcare, plain and simple. For the next week, I lived in a bubble of perfect relaxation. I hiked to waterfalls, took a helicopter tour of the island, learned to surf, and spent countless hours simply lying on the beach. Each night, I checked my messages, amused by my family's increasingly desperate attempts to make me feel guilty. By the end of my vacation, the tone of their messages had begun to change. There were fewer accusations and more attempts at reconciliation. Mom sent a long text about how they should have been more honest. Dad called and left a voicemail saying they missed me at Sunday dinner. Even Mark sent a half-hearted apology, though it still included a complaint about how difficult the vacation had been with the kids. I packed my bags on the final day with mixed emotions. Part of me was sad to leave this paradise, but another part felt stronger, more resolute. I had drawn a boundary, and even though it had caused conflict, it felt right. The flight home gave me time to think about what would happen next. Would I go back to being the family doormat? Would I cut them off completely? Neither option seemed right. When my plane landed and I turned my phone back on, there were new messages waiting for me. We're all coming to see you tomorrow. We need to talk. Please give us a chance to apologize in person. The kids miss their Aunt Nicole. I smiled grimly. They still didn't get it, did they? This wasn't about missing one vacation or one babysitting opportunity. This was about years of being taken for granted, of having my time and energy considered less valuable than everyone else's because I didn't have children of my own. Back in my apartment, I unpacked slowly, savoring the memories of my solo adventure and steeling myself for whatever confrontation tomorrow would bring. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of family conflict. I had found my voice and I intended to use it. The next day, right on schedule, the doorbell rang. I peered through the peephole to see my parents, Mark and Jen, all standing in the hallway looking somber. No spouses, no children, just the core family. I took a deep breath and opened the door, but only as far as the security chain would allow. "Nicole, please," Mom said, her voice softer than usual. "We just want to talk." I stood firmly behind my partially open door. "I'm not sure I'm ready for that. For years, you've all treated me like free labor. My time doesn't matter. My plans don't matter. All because I don't have kids. That's not true, Jen protested weakly. Really? I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshot of her accidental message. This says otherwise. Their faces fell as they read the damning evidence. Mark muttered something under his breath, and Jen looked away, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. We have a serious problem with you, Mom said, attempting to regain control of the situation. You should feel guilty for what you did. I laughed in disbelief. Are you kidding me? You're the ones who should feel guilty. You lied to me and tried to manipulate me. But you deliberately misled us about your plans, Dad argued. We were worried sick when you didn't show up in Florida. I learned from the best, I replied coldly. Look, I'm not going to stand here arguing in my doorway. I'm taking a break from all of you for a while. I need space. Space? Mom looked shocked. From your family, Nicole? That's ridiculous. What's ridiculous is how you're still trying to make me the bad guy here. I'm done being taken advantage of. I'm done being treated like I have less value because I'm single and don't have kids. We never said that, Mark protested. You didn't have to say it. You showed it with your actions. Every time you dropped your kids off without notice. Every time you volunteered me for babysitting duty without asking. Every time you made plans assuming I'd be available. And then this. I waved my phone again. This was the final straw. They exchanged uncomfortable glances. No one seemed to know what to say. Nicole, please, Mom tried again. Let us come in. We can work this out. I shook my head. Not today. I'll decide when and if I'm ready to talk. Right now, I just need you all to respect my decision. With that, I closed the door completely, ignoring their whispered conference in the hallway. 10 minutes later, I heard them leave. The weeks that followed were strangely peaceful. I went to work, met friends for dinner, took weekend trips to nearby towns, all without the constant interruption of family obligations. No last-minute babysitting requests, no guilt trips about missing Sunday dinner. At first, my phone was flooded with messages, apologies that felt hollow, attempts to minimize what had happened, and even a few that tried to turn the blame back on me. I read them all but didn't respond. After 3 weeks of silence, things began to change. A bouquet of flowers arrived at my apartment with a card from Mark. I'm truly sorry for taking you for granted. No strings attached, no expectations, just an apology. A few days later, I received a real handwritten letter from Jen admitting her selfishness and the fact that she had never taken my viewpoint into account. My parents' adjustment was the most unexpected. They sent me this straightforward text, "We miss you, but we understand you need time," rather than insisting that I rejoin the family. When you're ready, we're here. Just respect for my boundaries, no manipulation, no guilt trips. I nearly phoned right away because it was so different from them, but I refrained. This went beyond a single event or trip. The goal was to change the dynamics of our entire family. I thought about how much had changed one evening while sipping a bottle of wine and watching the sunset from my balcony. For years, I mostly used my role as reliable Nicole in the family to define who I was. Nicole is always available. Nicole put everyone else first. It had been frightening yet important to let go of that identity. Mom texted me as my phone buzzed. I've been talking a lot with your father about how we've treated you. Nicole, we sincerely apologize. We never intended to diminish your worth because you are childless. The importance of your time and life is equal to that of Mark's or Jen's. We can now see that. The corners of my eyes pricked with tears. Not only had advocating for myself transformed my relationships with my family, but it also transformed myself. At work, I was also improving my boundaries by speaking up in meetings when I had ideas and leaving on time rather than remaining late every night. I passed my parents' house that weekend when Sunday supper was supposed to be taking place. I felt a twinge of anxiety and nostalgia, but I didn't stop. They were still family to me in spite of everything. I eventually responded to my mother's SMS a week later, saying, "Thank you for your apologies. We might get together for coffee this weekend, but I'm not quite ready for Sunday supper yet." Me and you alone. Name the time and place, was her prompt reply. I'll be present. At first, our coffee date was uncomfortable, but eventually, we managed to have an open discussion. Mom pledged that going future, things would be different after acknowledging that they had all taken advantage of me. She added, "We miss you," with tears in her eyes. But we respect that you need things to change. I miss you all too, said I, but I won't go back to how things were. We don't want that either, she told me clearly. Mark and Jen have actually started using babysitters, real ones that they pay. I consented to go to Sunday dinner once again 2 months after my Hawaii holiday. There was less chaos and more respect in the air. Rather of relying on me to discipline their children, Mark and Lisa did it themselves. And rather than making assumptions, Jen genuinely asked whether I would mind assisting with Noah's lunch. Although it wasn't flawless, it was a step forward. And I came to the realization that sometimes you have to damage something in order to properly reconstruct it while I was driving home that night. In addition to the fact that our family was getting better, I was at last receiving equal treatment.